Hi, I'm Brian King, and it's time for another Marriage Monday. On Marriage Mondays, we talk about the nuts and bolts of being married and how to be married. And I wanted to go back today to the very beginning. How did you get married? I'm sure you've heard it said that the marriage is just a piece of paper, that the wedding band is just the gimmick by jewelry stores to sell expensive jewelry. That's really not true. I mean, yes, the wedding ring is a signifier, a daily reminder that you're married. And the paper itself is really just saying that something happened, that a ceremony took place, that you stood up in front of a whole bunch of people and agreed to do something. That's what makes a marriage. You stood up there with your girlfriend, and when you were done, you turned around and were introduced as husband and wife. In between, there were promises. Now, depending on who did the marriage, there could have been anywhere from 200 to 300 people there. It could have been a minister or a priest or a justice of the peace or maybe even a ship's captain. I don't know. But all of the weddings have one thing in common, and that is that you make promises to your girlfriend and she becomes your wife. Now, what were some of those promises? Well, there's a lot of wisdom in the vows, and if you distill it down, even when the justice of the peace does it, there's still some very basic things that almost all wedding vows have in common. You stand up there and you're asked, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, to love, honor, cherish, forsaking all others, till death do us part? Pretty common. There's a whole bunch of other possibility things that you can say in there. Some ceremonies are stretched really long. Some are really short. Some of them make you say it. Some of them just say, do you agree? And all you have to do is say, I do. And I know you did, because they won't let you leave unless you do. So now that you're married, maybe it's time to kind of read the fine print again and see, what did you really agree to? And like I said, there's a lot of wisdom in there. The marriage vows were designed to represent a perfect wedding, a perfect marriage. Now, none of us get it perfect. I'm not pointing at these to shame you into doing your vows. If you've broken all of them, there's still hope. But I do want to kind of point out, what it is that you promised, and, maybe it's time to go back to the beginning and say, well, I promised this, maybe I should start doing it better. And that's what I'm looking for here. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm perfect. As a matter of fact, I am not. Let's start at the beginning. In the first place, it says, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward? That was my favorite part. That's what I was looking for. Up until then, when I was dating, Anne would go home after we had a date. She went to her house, I went to my house. After we got married, she never went back to her other house again. She was with me from that day forward. And I promised to love her. Well, what is love? In the big picture, basically, if you love somebody, you're willing to die for them. That's how you determine what love really is. Well, that's really the best possible way to show love. Now, there's a comedian out there that says, has a wife saying, hey, honey, you always promise and you always say you die for me, but you never do. So the basic part of love is that you treat her the way you want to be treated. If you can't be willing to die for her, then at least treat her the way you want to be treated. At least as good as that. To honor. What does it mean to honor somebody? Well, if you really honor somebody, then you always speak well of them. That's the basic premises of honor. You don't say one thing to their face and another thing behind their back. If you really honor somebody, you stand up for them. You never talk about them behind their back, ever. To cherish. If you really cherish something, you take care of it. You make sure that she has everything she needs whenever she needs it because you cherish her. You want her to flourish and grow and be the best that she can be. Lots of times they throw in sickness and in health. And basically that means that no matter what comes, you're there for her, period. There's no back door. There's no, well, I'll be here as long as everything goes well. For better or for worse. You may go through some hard times, but you're staying there. Then there's another line in here, and I think it's really important because it says, forsaking all others. Now, forsake is an extremely strong word. It means to basically utterly ignore the plight and circumstances of another person, to forsake them. And the reason that it's in there is because there will come times when another woman will not only want you, she might even need you. And you're going to have to say no. You're going to have to forsake anyone else. Totally and utterly ignore the plight of another person. Why do you think they put it in there so strong? Because they knew that it would be a temptation. Everybody's been tempted. The only way you can really get away from it is to utterly and completely ignore the plight of another person. It's extremely hard to do. Why? Because you're compassionate. You care about people. Well, that's why flirting can lead to affairs, because you're not forsaking, you're getting involved. Your heart goes out to another person. That shouldn't happen. You shouldn't allow that to happen. If you see flirting start, kill it immediately. Stop it. Don't let it happen. Because you promised to forsake all others. Interesting. Somebody knew that we were going to need to do that. Forsaking all others. And then till death do us part. Marriage is supposed to be and designed to be forever. Interesting, isn't it? Well, anyway, those are the nuts and bolts of marriage. If you kept your vows perfectly, then you would have a perfect marriage. Well, hard to do, and you're going to mess up. And even if you've messed up, try to go back to your promises. Even if you broke all the vows, today's a new day. Start over. Well, I can't do them all at once, but I can practice honor. I can stop talking about her behind her back. I can cherish her. I can look for what's best for her. I can try to love her more than I did before. If somebody's been flirting, or even if I've had an affair, I can end that and go back to what I initially promised. I can forsake that other person. You may need to. It may need a lot of work, but it's doable. She probably would prefer that you come back to her. She'll probably even forgive you, which I don't totally understand, but that's something that happens a lot more often than you'd think. But you do need to get back on the right track. Going back to the nuts and bolts the very basics of why and how you got married is one of the best ways to do it. It's a great place to start. Practice loving her. Practice honoring her. Practice cherishing her. And forsake all others. You can rebuild a broken relationship. So, hey, Marriage Monday. Hope you got something out of this. If you did, like, share, subscribe, you know the deal. And we will see you next week for another Marriage Monday. Thanks for listening.